if you're a Yankee fan this morning, you are absolutely disgusted at the way that game went. The fact that, you had a Mets team who has been scuffling, and I understand they beat the Orioles the day before, but this team has been floundering for a long time. On the ropes early, 4-0. Their offense has struggled most of the year. You just don't think that team has it in them to come back from a 2-run deficit, let alone a 4-run deficit. I don't care how early it is in the game. We've talked about it before. The Mets, it feels like, 2 runs is 20 runs sometimes with them. But now I'm not someone who is a big believer in, this magical thing happened to a team and that's how they won. But I will say, though, that sometimes the emotions of human beings playing the game, because they understand how important it is to the organization, sometimes that plays into it. And the Mets, I thought, honored Tom Seaver tremendously yesterday with the dirt on the knee. I thought that was as creative. It was different. It wasn't just your standard, tribute to a guy. And they had that, and then just the emotion that they had played with, which we hadn't seen a lot of throughout this season yesterday. And I know it's the Yankees as well, and I know their backs are up against the wall. All those things were happening, but it was a tremendous comeback with some horrible there was some bad baseball in this game for both of these teams. Billy Hamilton and Tyler Wade with 2 head-up-your-butt moments there, with both fan bases ripping their hair out. But think about it. J.D. Davis hitting that home run against Aroldis Chapman after the Billy Hamilton snafu. A moment like that. Pete Alonso, who has been horrendous this season.
And was again yesterday.
Was again yesterday, even after hitting a big home run the day before. He'll pop out of it. And he was terrible for the majority of the game, and then hits the walk-off home run. It was theater. Both fan bases, you're going to feel totally, and the Yankee fan has got to be, worried now at this point about their team. But for the Mets, Howie Rose tweeted out, "That was one of the most memorable games. He's never going to forget what happened yesterday because it was against the Yankees and it was the day after we found out about Tom Seaver." So that was one hell of a baseball game, man. That was about as entertaining as it gets.
It had so much in it, too. If you think about, you already mentioned the base running blunders. Think about how many hard-hit balls there were in this game, how many line drives that were caught. You had 2 starting pitchers that were, Robert Gazelman, good Lord. Here's the one thing watching this game from a Mets perspective. The amount of walks that the Met pitching gave up was just mind-numbing. Gazelman couldn't find the plate. Later in the game, I forget who it was, we're walking the bases loaded again. You've got J-Happ, very average, and I'm being kind by saying very average. Mets don't catch up once, they catch up twice, 4-0 before you can sit down. And then, of course, 7-4. Todd Frazier, horrendous in Baltimore. And look at him yesterday. He got them off and running with that home run to the right side.
These home runs that he hits, man, there are some of them where it is a miracle that they make it out of the ballpark. A miracle.
No question. Even
yesterday was one of those.
Hit where he's down to his knee. Like the home run he hit when me and you were at the game.
Right. He's just flailing out there, and then a lot of them end up being critical hits. I don't know how the hell he does it, but that was another one. That snuck over the wall by 3 centimeters.
It got there.
But it got there, and it did. It absolutely did.
But it was a really fun game to watch. From whatever perspective you might be on, it'd be more frustrating than fun. For a Yankee fan, no doubt. You're up 4-0 and 7-4. I guess they say, things come around, right? Because this is what happened to the Mets at Yankee Stadium, blowing that stupid 7-2 lead. I would think it's 7-4 after the Mets came back and the Yankees regained the lead. You felt pretty good about them closing out. But you give the Mets a lot of credit. They clawed back again. You get the home run, and then to get the home run from Pete Alonso. And here's the one thing that I find interesting. I don't know if you caught any of the post-game stuff.
I didn't yesterday.
Okay, so Alonso, great things to say about Seaver. It seemed like he was really locked in on the day and everything that surrounds it. I felt bad for J.D. Davis, though. The guy's been here for a week and a half, year and a half, and they're asking him about Seaver. And you could sit there and see the look on his face like he knows who he is, but he's not really like a big Met guy. He's only been here a year and a half. And he gave this answer that just went round and round because you could tell he was searching for words. But another good game from him. And how about this, too? He gets the home run off Chapman, who basically knocked him out of a couple of games by hitting him with a fastball. So I had to feel good for him, too.
Yeah, and Aroldis Chapman with another smile, by the way. So, remember when everybody thought that Aroldis Chapman smile when Altuve hit that home run against them in the ALCS was because he thought that Altuve knew what was coming?
Right.
So, of course, it has to be J.D. Davis who was on that Astros team, because then everybody's going to say, Chapman knows that J.D. Davis knows what's coming. No. I mean, this is just what Chapman does. I don't think that he was smiling because he thought Altuve knew the pitch. I don't think he was smiling yesterday because he thought J.D. Davis knew what was coming. I think just some people in those type of situations just have that type of reaction. Doesn't mean he doesn't care. It doesn't mean that he didn't want to get him out. He doesn't think that it's funny that he gave up a game-tying home run in a critical spot in the game. It's just, I don't know. I've done that before just in stupid softball stuff or whatever that we do. I know it's different in a Major League Baseball game, but if you screw up and you start laughing about it, sometimes, I don't know. I mean, I understand it's different when it's Aroldis Chapman, but people have those reactions.
Yeah.
And I know Yankee fans hate it, and it reminds them of Sonny Gray and all that stuff, and I don't know. I mean, listen, that should be the least of their worries is Aroldis Chapman smiling. And by the way, we've gone too far without me, at least, because when these opportunities come, we have to pat this man on the back, and that's Edwin Diaz, who has 2 clean innings outside of a walk and 4 strikeouts and looked like the dominant pitcher the Mets thought they were getting last year.
Those were high-leverage situations yesterday.
They were.
Close game.
Yes, they were.
And Chase and Shreve. I mean, those 2 guys, I'm not going to say Familia, who I know through 2 scoreless innings, he got hit pretty hard. But I thought those 2 guys, I thought Shreve and Diaz were tremendous yesterday. Big part of why they won this game.
Yeah, and that performance and a couple others that get sprinkled in there with Edwin Diaz are the reason why he keeps getting these opportunities.
No doubt. He's going 100, 101 yesterday with movement. Yeah. Like, that's the guy that they traded for. That's the guy that was in Seattle. The problem is you don't see that guy consistently.
No. Right. So that's why do you keep rolling the dice? Do you keep rolling the dice? And you're thinking, all right, I've got this weapon who is capable of that. Why am I not going to use him every time that I have an opportunity to? And then you've got this whole body of work of him pooping the bed that tells you why not.
I think the question is, if not him, who? And trust me, I'm with you. He comes into a game and it's a Mylanta moment. I totally understand because you don't know which one you're going to get. Who else is closing a game out for this team? Well, I really thought Betances had a chance when they signed him. That has not gone well. He remains to be, and now he's out.
Well, now that Lugo is, your swing man.
Right.
I mean, those were 2 guys that I would have told you before the season that those would have been the answers.
But he's out of the equation.
Right.
So if you look at what they have right now, I don't know where else you're going.
Yeah. I
really don't. I mean, you want to tell me Familia? I'm not going there. I actually would rather go with Diaz. I know people say, well, Familia did. Oh, he did it 5 years ago. I don't trust Familia. I really don't. And like I said, you can read the box score from yesterday and say, yeah, but look what he did. Watch the game. He's giving up hard hit balls all over the place.
Sure.
So right. I think, yes, I probably have to roll the dice with Diaz because that's my best option. And you hope you get the Diaz that excels as opposed to the one that poops the bed because you really don't know from game to game. But I can tell you, we have certainly seen it in flashes. You need some consistency. And if they ever found it, they'd be in a really good way. Here's the one thing I will say about the Mets, because I know what you're saying. When they fall behind, you don't feel like they can come back because of their feast or famine. I do look at this lineup. I do think it's a good lineup. I think it has been the pitching that has really been the issue. While they have had games where they can't score, I get it, and they've lost games 1-0 and 2-1, that's fine. I do think at the end of the day, though, if this was a 162-game season, I think the offense is there. I'm really worried about the bullpen. That's where, as we were talking about Diaz, that's where I do get concerned. The starting pitching with all the injuries. I mean, while you have Jacob deGrom, I don't know about anybody else at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're a game and a half out of a playoff spot at this point, the Mets. I don't know how I feel about them having any sort of chance to make anything out of this, because everything you say is true. The starting pitching, to me, has been decimated to a point where I don't think that they can compete at a high enough level. If Pete Alonso and Michael Conforto continue to hit and in big spots, and Conforto can have these 4 for 5 with 5 RBI games, and Alonso can start hitting some home runs, and Robbie Cano continues to do what he's doing, it's a formidable offense, sure. But then you bring up the bullpen. There's too many holes. There's just too many issues for them I mean, I have essentially counted them out for anything that is significant. I mean, you sneak into the playoffs when everybody you feel like is making the playoffs. Okay, fine. You get a couple exciting moments. Maybe they could turn it on, give the fan base something. But I'm not counting on much. The Yankees, on the other hand, I mean, I don't know at what point do you stop saying everything's going to be all right with them and start to legitimately be concerned
about a long
stretch. Whether or not they can win a championship with all the adversity that they've had. And it's getting to that point. Now, I'm a huge Yankees believer, have been last year, this year. I still think when guys come back, this team has just a totally different look, as we know, because they've lost so many players. But it's just, it's not the magic that they had earlier in the year is just slowly and slowly dissipating to the point where they are and have been for a long time an average to below average baseball team, and now they're sitting there at 20-16 after a great start.
A spot I never thought they'd be in. I really didn't. I'll ask you this from the game yesterday. So you've got Alonso up, open base. Would you have walked him there? I wouldn't have because I think Cano was coming in. I think he was going to pinch hit after him. I only say it, and it's not a second guess. I was watching the game. My first thought would be, as I'm watching, I'm like, boy, I'd put Alonso on. And then I said, you know what? I see Cano on deck. He's been red hot, and Alonso's striking out left and right. I probably would pitch to him. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you set up even if Cano comes in, you set up the double play. I don't know. I've gone back and forth on it. I can sell it both ways. I can sit there and say Alonso's been bad, pitch to him. And then I can sit there and say, you know what? If you get that rollover to second base, you can turn two very quickly. And then all of a sudden you got a guy on third, two out. Maybe you get out of the inning. It's an interesting thought, though, because that was a game up 4-0 and 7-4. If you're the Yankees, with the way things have gone the last couple of weeks, you had to win that game. Not that it derails their season by any stretch, but it's just a game that you feel like you won twice. You needed to come away with it. Would have been the season win, taking 4 out of 6 from the Mets. Instead, they end up with the season split. But this is a team that we've lauded guys stepping up and making things happen. All of a sudden, that magic has kind of gone away.
All these conversations for me end up in sort of the same place, which is unless the guy who's up is like the best player in baseball or on the hottest streak or something like that, then I'm trying to get him out. I just am. The law of averages in baseball is I can get this guy out. Now you're telling me it's Christian Yelich in his MVP year. You're telling me it's Barry Bonds when he's hitting 73 home runs, all juiced up. It's a different story. Pete Alonso, who was 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts and left a bunch of guys on base yesterday.
No doubt.
Forget about it. I'm going after him. I just am. So, and if he's figuring it out and that happened to be a great moment for him, then I'll tip the cap. But I think you gotta go after him. You gotta challenge him. So yeah, I mean the Yankees. This was compounded with the fact that it's a loss to the Mets off of this Rays series, where the last game was just gross for them because you have this big blowout. You think that you're getting. You're pushing them around a little bit. You're showing them who's boss. You win a game. You come back. There's suspensions, and then the Rays just come out and kick your ass. And then you follow it up with this. Not 1 but 2 choke jobs in this game. Eek.
I mean, aside from the 3 games with the Mets, I mean, you look at the Yankees' last 10 days, 12 days. It's been bad. I mean, it's been a really bad stretch for them. And they're still 4 games over 500. Everything's still in front of them. It's not like it's Panic City. But you need guys back. That's the other thing. You need guys. Did you see the note about Stanton where it basically said he's throwing, he's running, he's hitting, and then in parentheses, no timetable for a return? Yeah. What the hell are we doing?
Well, I mean, this is what we've come accustomed to with that.
I understand, but at some point, and I guess you got to be ready for October more so than right now. Are we going to see him mid-September, though? Like, is he even going to have games to ramp up to the postseason, or is he just going to appear October 1st?
No, I mean, to me, when all these guys were hurt at the same time, Stanton was the last guy that was on my mind. He was the last guy. Because the Yankees can – see, I was thinking about when's LeMahieu coming back? When's Glaber coming back? When's Aaron Judge coming back? Those were the guys that I was more concerned about because Giancarlo Stanton he hasn't been – all of last year when they were as good as they were, he wasn't around.
He's like a rumor.
Yeah, and in the postseason, I mean, think about it. In the postseason, you got a glimpse of him here or there. I mean, do you really think that he was going to be the difference maker against the Astros last year when he hadn't played barely at all? So he's not the one. He's a punchline is what he is. I mean, he's just now the joke of the team. And if he comes back and contributes, it's a borderline miracle. I mean, the guys that you want to see back are the guys that you know can contribute. Now, out of those three that I mentioned in LeMahieu, Torres, and LeMahieu's been back, but LeMahieu, Torres, and Judge, I mean, Judge is the most unreliable out of those three. So he's like on that list. He's third of the guys that I'm counting on to come back and make an impact. As sad as that is, because he's always hurt.
Yeah,
there's always something going on with him. So yeah, I mean it's maddening that it's happening again to this team that is so stacked and supposed to be so good and shouldn't have been challenged really if they had stayed healthy, or I mean even with some of this adversity, by much at all in the American League. And not only are they just sort of there right now at 20-16 with the same record, by the way, as the Toronto Blue Jays. Yep. I mean, they also have a team in their division that they're 5 games behind that has their number.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.